Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. Gain valuable insights by attending the podcast, then complete the assessment test to download your certificate. To do this, follow these simple steps. Click on the link in your description to access the session. Create a free account and attend the podcast. After the podcast, take the assessment test and download your certificate. It's easy, and it's free. We highly recommend checking out our subscription.
Let's talk about real estate agents. If you were to ask an HR to create a training for specific for real estate team, what would that be?
I think the only thing, again, real estate agents it's a sales position, right? And again, these are independent contractors that are out there that can move from company to company. But I think the one big, so they don't need sales. They're going to get sales training from coaches, from their companies, everything else. Not going to come from HR. But what HR can do and create for the company that I think would be impactful is, again, training on diversity and inclusion and all the things that agents deal with, because they deal with a wide variety of people, but may not be aware or conscious of how they're acting or what they're saying or how they may offend, someone from a different culture or
Yeah, because
I think that there's agents don't get that training. So yes. I think that would be the thing.
The real estate is one of those one of that industries that they directly working with people. So having that diversity and inclusion training, having sensitivity training, having communication training is very important to build a relationship with people. Very good.
Yep.
Now I'm going to ask you some question designed based off the focusing on future. Hello everyone. Welcome to HR Talk, Unpacking Trends and Talent Innovations podcast. My name is Behnam Bakhshendah. I'm one of the hosts for this podcast series. Today's episode is CEO and HR, a strategic partnership. Our guest and speaker today is Mr. Chris Heller, CEO of OJO, O-J-O. Chris Heller is a visionary leader, creative author, and trusted consul with over 35 years of real estate experience. As OJO's president, he shapes partner initiatives, unites real estate professionals and OJO, and speeds up marketplace adoption powered by Moto.com, M-O-V-O-T-O.com. He is also a board member of OJO Labs, OJO's parent business, where he leads the team's passion for creating outcome-focused courses that help individuals achieve in life and work. From 1989, Rookie of the Year to Keller Williams top agent internationally to CEO of Keller Williams, Chris has held key positions for almost 3 decades. He transformed Keller Williams Realty into a digital firm, established its first international regions, and increased efficiency and profitability to record levels. He led cross-functional groups at Mel Homes to simplify and smarten home purchases, financing, and renovation for American consumers as CEO. Chris led the home seller San Diego team, selling over 4,000 homes. Chris is dedicated to providing value, quality, and greatness in real estate and beyond. Please welcome Mr. Chris Heller to this podcast, and let's enjoy his vast knowledge in executive management and real estate management connected to HR, and what strategies could be created between CEO and HR department. Hi, Chris, and welcome to our podcast for HR and strategic in HR partnership.
Hey, Ben, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. I know how busy you are. I know how many companies you're managing. I know you have a lot of clientele and people who follow you, and you're mentoring a lot of people. So thank you very much for your time. We're going to jump in from the first impressive position you ever had, from my view, when you become the CEO of Keller Williams. So what was I know you're not in that position at this moment, but what was the journey from being a real estate agent? I remember I worked with you and your team when we were in Sarita's office, a small office in San Diego County. What was the journey starting from there to be a CEO of one of the largest real estate companies?
Yeah, I guess and it was a journey. It's not the normal path that someone takes. I wasn't traditionally trained or educated on that. I got my real estate license when I was a sophomore in college, and then made real estate my career. Now I became very good at it and built one of the top real estate businesses in the country. I joined Keller Williams as a brokerage in 2004 as an agent, and then launched some franchises, and they became very successful. By 2009, I was the #1 Keller Williams agent in the world. So the people in the company knew who I was, and they saw what I was doing, and they saw how I was doing it. And at the same time, they were thinking of launching the company globally, and they had never done that before. And they wanted to, once they reached a certain size in North America, start to go and open up Keller Williams around the world. They approached me and said, "Hey, we'd like how you treat things as a business. We'd like your mind. We'd like your integrity. We know you have almost unlimited bandwidth. We need someone to do this, and we think you could do it. And are you interested?" And I said yes. And I didn't even know what I was saying yes to, because I didn't know what that meant. They didn't know what it meant, because they hadn't done it either. But 5 years later, Keller Williams was around the world. I opened up over 20 different countries, and it became very, very successful. Then at the same time, the current leadership was in a transition. The CEO was ready to step out of his role, had been there for over 15 years. And I was the next obvious choice because of my track record and the results I was getting, and the impact I was making to the company. So that's how I ended up in the CEO chair.
Very great, very good. Chris, as a general concept, what is your philosophy of leadership, especially in the industry as dynamic and fast-paced as real estate is? What is your leadership philosophy?
Yeah, so that I don't have just a philosophy. I have multiple ones. I
would love to hear them all.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in walking the talk, right? I'm never going to ask anyone to do something that I either haven't done or that I wouldn't be willing to do. So I'm gonna walk that talk. Also, it sounds like a trivial thing and common sense thing, but you're always doing the right thing. All right, like there's no negotiating, and people know that, right? And people know that about me. I'm also going to be.
Oh, you mean no negotiation on your values and principles?
Yeah. That's because there's no standards, right? You have to have standards for things, and once there is that type of negotiation, then how can how can people trust you, right? And trust is a key factor. So I only want to be around and in business with people I can trust, and they need to know that trust goes both ways. Yeah, and with me, they do. I think the authenticity is another thing that attracts a lot of talented people, and why people follow me to multiple companies is they know I'm always going to give them the straight scoop, and I'm never going to do things in what's best for me. I'm going to do things either what's best for the mission, the company, or the team. And I know if I do that, then I never have to worry about what I get out of it.
Yes, that's a foundation. The company's vision, mission, principles is a foundation of any organization.
Do you want to earn CPE credit? Take this course of My CPE to earn free credit. Click the link in the description to get started.
Yeah. And then, the other part about leadership is making sure that a couple things happen. Number one is that you create a big enough vision that people can see themselves in it and see opportunities for themselves. And not just create the vision, but then create those opportunities, right? So, I think part of my job as a leader is to develop other leaders. And I know I'm only as good as the people I develop, and I'm going to be judged by how good the people that I lead are doing. So, my job is to make sure that they're doing great.
Very good philosophy. As you said, there is no one single, but there's a series of value-based philosophies. Good for you. What is, from your point of view, what are the most significant challenges in the industry like real estate facing? And compare it with your current company, Ojo and Ojo Lab. How do you deal with such challenges?
So, like in the industry as a whole, there's a lot of challenges there, and some of them have been going on for a long time, right? One is the success rate of real estate agents. The majority of agents don't become or aren't successful, and that's a challenge, and that's something that should be and can be remedied. Another challenge in the industry in the last 12 months, the National Association for the industry has had all sorts of bad things happen. And most of them in the HR arena, and so that becomes a challenge for the whole industry when the association that everyone belongs to is experiencing those things and those leadership challenges and those bad choices and bad.
Can you give us some examples, if you may, if it's not?
Yeah, so
confidentiality.
there's been harassment issues, conduct, so like HR, real specific HR type issues with some of the leadership in that organization. Other challenges is right now there's multiple class action suits that have been filed regarding how agents cooperate with one another and how agents are compensated and who pays for the compensation. There's challenges with technology and a lot of venture capital in the last 5 to 8 years that came into real estate, and seeing that there was an opportunity to disrupt an industry that had been operating the same way for 50, 60, 70, 80 years. And that's created some challenges, and it's also created some good things too. But there's no shortage of challenges in this industry, but I don't know that is unique to this industry.
To the HR, yes, I understand. And that trend of industries are changing so fast. As I'm doing research on human resources development related to human resources, there's so many big, massive changes arising in the background of any industry, which is very hard to catch up with it. And then in our experience, the CEOs, which they are older than 50 years old, they have their mind is set in a certain ways, good old ways to conduct the business, and that caused a lot of problem in the new trend of industry. I'm gonna start asking you some question HR related, especially about the strategic role of HR in business. How do you perceive the role of HR in a strategic decision making? You can use your own company.
Yeah. Probably more important than ever is the answer. There's we leverage and depend on HR for a lot more, it seems like, in the last several years than we did in the decade or two before that. Well, I don't need to walk anyone through the history, but right now, the way that I see it and view it, everything from development of our talent to attracting and retaining talent, like all those foundational pieces have to be there for a company to be able to execute on any strategy. Mm-hmm. So HR or people operations or whatever name you want to call it becomes a critical piece to that foundation, right? It's the glue that holds it together. Now that's my view, but it's also the view, I think, of some of the more successful companies, and those are the ones that are starting to pull away from some of their contemporaries or some of their competition that hasn't embraced the full benefit that a strong HR leader and department can bring to a company. Just like I said, development and training and there's all the table stakes things of benefits and being competitive and compensation and all those pieces, but it's the really I guess the thing it can impact as much as anything in a good or bad way is culture, and culture is key to any strategy.
Right. Very agree. Chris, how do you describe your own partnership with your own HR department or HR team, and how that evolves from beginning to now that caused your company's success?
Yeah, so if I think back 10 or 15 years ago, I thought about HR mostly when there was an issue or a problem or a challenge. And because they were often the solution or
where the problem lands, right?
Yeah. But now the way I look at it is really in a partnership. They whether it's again building or maintaining the culture or improving the culture, whether it's looking in the last several years with the pandemic of literally turning the workforce and how people worked and where they worked upside down and making that work and having to make that work in a very short period of time. I mean, February of 2020, hearing about what's going on in China, March 9th of 2020, we all were working from home. And that happened, in a snap of a finger. So that can't happen without that strong partnership of those professionals that are saying, okay, here's how we're going to do it, or here's what we need to do. And then again, how do you maintain or build a culture that went from being in person every day to not being in person at all?
Yeah.
Now on the other side, in a hybrid world where some are in the office and some aren't. So super important.
Now, maybe unrelated question. It just popped as soon as you said COVID, and I'm thinking real estate. I saw a lot of programs in TV about the challenges now in commercial real estate, especially in metropolitan areas like New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, Los Angeles. As a real estate professional, how do you see that? How that will impact the market in general? I know it's not related to our topic, but it's an interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah, no, like commercial real estate is and will continue to go through a transformation, right? You have large companies that had large offices with hundreds and thousands of people in them, and now many of their workforce are distributed all over the country or even the world. And those large physical spaces aren't being used or aren't being used the same way. So there's a lot of commercial real estate out there that's going to either be repurposed or utilized in a different manner to serve the the modern day workforce or the contemporary workforce that we have. And
Some of them are modifying them to residential apartment buildings.
some that are able to are absolutely looking at that as an opportunity. But it's also changed, it's changed how people live and where they live, right? It's changed the productivity of, when someone was, spending 2 or 3 hours a day commuting and they're no longer doing that, that's extra time they have to be productive. It also means, where do they live? Like, do I need to live, close to work if work is, in my guest room? Yeah, I can live in other places. It's really impacted a lot of things in the real estate industry, commercially and residentially.
Yeah. Very good. Now,
I think I just made up a word, residentially.
Make it work.
I made up a word, I said.
It's okay. It's okay. This day and time, almost every CEO I talk to, they're complaining about shortage of talent or how to keep the talent. How do you strategize working with HR to in terms of your talent management, talent recruitment, or talent development, and keeping it?
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE's Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.
I don't believe there's a shortage of talent. Now there may be in a particular company or something, but the world is full of talented people, and they're there. So then it becomes, well, how do you attract them, and then how do you keep them? Well, what talented people want to win, and they want to be with winners, and they want to be in a place where they can see themselves winning and be part of a winning team. So that's one of the things that's absolutely necessary to attract talent, is they have to be able to see themselves winning and see, you providing them with that platform where they can win and where they can be part of a winning team. The retention of talent is a number of things. It's number one, providing them an environment where they're constantly being challenged and stretched, because talented people want and need that. Also, making sure that you have standards and high standards, because talented people want to play and work with other talented people. And if you aren't holding up your standards and you're letting in people that aren't qualified or shouldn't be there, that's a reflection on leadership, it's a reflection on the company, and it's part of a team. I mean, the best analogies are sports, right? If we look at the sports teams, the teams that make the playoffs, the teams that become the champions, they've figured out how to attract and keep talent, and those are the ones. And they have standards, they have high standards, right? They aren't going to let someone on the team who's going to, bring down the team or be a cancer in the clubhouse. And the same thing with companies of any size. So, attracting talent and then retaining talent is creating opportunities, creating challenges, and then being a strong leader, because I do believe everything rises and falls on leadership.
Very good. But in your company, for example, give us some example. How do you strategize with your HR to keep the talent or develop?
Yeah. So the first is the first piece of that, and probably the most important one is who you hire, right? So if you hire talented people, then it's a lot easier after that. So again, having really high standards on who we hire, and when we do, we have really high standards. If someone gets hired at our company, they went through a lot to be in that position, and they are smart and they are talented, or we won't hire someone, and we don't waver on those standards of who we're going to hire. It doesn't matter how quickly we need someone or how badly we need someone. If we won't hire out of any desperation or fear or anything else, we will take whatever time we have to find the right talent. So that's the first step. If you hire the right talent, then all the rest is easier. But then developing them, offering them opportunities to grow, offering them, the trainings, whether it's communication trainings or management training or leadership training, all those things so they can see themselves growing and getting better and learning. And then just understanding the people. In a big company, I'm not going to know or understand everyone, but I'm going to know and understand the people that I deal with really well. And I expect them to all know and understand the people they deal with really well. And they're going to take their lead from the leaders. So when the leader's doing that, you have you can create an environment where, people, feel valued, where they are cared, feel like you care about them. And then there's, I could go on and on. It's celebrating the wins. It's talking about the challenges and just communication is probably the one piece that's the most important, because everything involves communication.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I want to ask you a question regarding DEI&B, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Is one of the trending changes that many companies now, many senior managements paying a lot of attention to. In your company, under your management, how do you and your HR collaborating to make sure there is equity and diversity and inclusion in the company?
Yeah, so we pride ourselves in that and how we do that. I'm not gonna say we're perfect, but we take great pride in that, and it's something that's of the highest focus. I don't think there's ever a situation where people shouldn't feel included, period. I don't care. I don't care what color room for that anymore in the world, right? This is 2024, and not 1824, or 1964. And so, it's just part of our focus. And then making sure that, we are, when we're looking for candidates, that we're exhausting every possible avenue that we have, to find the right candidates, but also to make sure that we are, looking at it through a very diverse lens, so that we have that in the company. Because people look at that, people in the company, it's important to a lot of people, as it should be. I wish it was important to more people. But they're going to look around and see, how, and judge how are you doing? How's the company doing? How's leadership doing? And we want them to look around and be proud that they're with the company and be proud of the leadership.
Great. Chris, from your point of view, what are the most significant workforce challenges facing real estate industry or real estate companies? And how do you think HR departments are dealing with them?
Well, okay, so I'm going to separate, and I don't know that this is unique to real estate, but real estate agents are independent contractors, right? So HR doesn't play a big role with them. With the corporate staff and the corporate team, HR is highly involved. I think when you have a mixed workforce of employees and independent contractors, then it's a matter of, with your employees, there's rules, there's standards there, everything else. And with independent contractors, many of the times those don't apply.
Yes.
But from a human standpoint, there shouldn't be a difference. So it's also having standards. There's a lot of companies, I shouldn't say a lot, there's several companies that have been in the news lately where there was bad behavior by agents, and the companies didn't take action or didn't take action quickly enough. If it had been one of their employees, I think things would have happened differently. But because it was an independent contractor and they felt that they don't have any control, they didn't take action. In retrospect, I think they all wish they would have and done it very quickly because some of the litigation and some of the press that they've gotten because of it. But I think it's, that's a challenge, right? You have that mixed workforce of employees and independent contractors. I think generally speaking, though, the biggest challenge, which is 100% not related to real estate, is the changing workforce, right? The hybrid workforce of people working, from home, people working from different cities, different people that working from different areas. That's, I think, probably currently the biggest challenge that companies have.
I agree. Now, again, from top of your head, as your point of view as CEO of the company, if you were asking your HR department or the HRD, Human Resource Development, who work for HR, to come with set of training and development, what would be the top 3 topics of training and development you think a real estate company or branch or team can use that HR can create and present?
Inclusion and diversity training, leadership, and then if it was specific to real estate,
or general employment.
I think it's now those are the 2 that stick out. Like those are the 2 absolutely for sure. From then there's a lot of different ones. Effective communication, effective meetings, how to be inclusive in meetings, all the structural pieces of a job someone does. But leadership and diversity and inclusion are the 2 big ones.
Okay, let's talk about real estate agents. If you were asking HR to create a training for specific for real estate team, what would that be?
I think the only thing, again, real estate agents it's a sales position, right? And again, these are independent contractors that are out there that can move from company to company. But I think the one big, so they don't need sales. They're going to get sales training from coaches, from their companies, everything else. Not going to come from HR. But what HR can do and create for the company that I think would be impactful is, again, training on diversity and inclusion and all the things that agents deal with, because they deal with a wide variety of people, but may not be aware or conscious of how they're acting or what they're saying or how they may offend, someone from a different culture or
because
I think that there's agents don't get that training. So I think that would be the thing.
Yeah, real estate is one of those one of that industries that they directly working with people. So having that diversity and inclusion training, having sensitivity training, having communication training is very important to build a relationship with people. Very good.
Yep.
Now I'm going to ask you some question designed based off the focusing on future. With the rapid advancement of technology, how you and HR preparing your workforce for the digital transformation of the real estate sector?
Look, the biggest change and the most rapid advancement of technology all revolves around artificial intelligence. And there's already some current examples of how that could be used in a negative way. So I think, training about that, and again, the sensitivity to how it's used and when it should be used, and the transparency of for the customer or the consumer or the people that are interacting with it are all things that need to be contemplated and people need to become better educated about, and I think there's a lot of training opportunities around that.
And I know you, for example, brought many other your clients to the technology work around real estate. And I know Ojo is the kind of IT related real estate company. Say more about that. How do you guys using it?
Well, we own and operate a site called Movoto.com, which is one of the largest, most trafficked sites in the country. So it's the 5th largest real estate portal. And so we have millions and millions of people that go there every month to the site, and we're interacting with those people and having a digital experience with those people and an analog experience with them in many cases too, because sometimes they have questions. And we have a call center where we're interacting with them and helping to triage their needs or their wants, and then help them, get those needs or wants filled. So, we heavily, and we're a technology company, so I mean, it's at the core of what we are and what we do. But there's also a strong human interaction too, because most of these consumers are looking to buy or sell a home or finance a home. And it's connecting them with that live human that can help them with their goals and their needs.
Very good. Now, looking ahead, looking at the future that you're designing for Ojo or Ojo Lab, what are your main goals for Ojo Lab, and how does HR can contribute to achieving these objectives?
Yeah, I was gonna say all, maybe all. Certainly the majority of our goals evolve around growth, right? And not only just of revenue, but of a lot of different metrics that we track. It takes people to do that. So HR is just as important, or even more important, as you look into the future and look at a company that has a high growth company, because that's not going to happen just based on the technology. It's going to happen based on talented people that are building and designing and implementing. And so I think in the future it's just amplifying everything that a good HR department currently does.
Very good. Couple last questions, just general. I would love to pick up your brain. As a CEO, as a senior manager of company, what is your expectations of your HR team? Could be HR director, HR manager, or HR department.
So with the high standards we have for the company, the expectation and standards for that HR team are even higher, right? They're like, because they're helping to administer, implement, impact, influence the whole company. So, that team has to be just top notch, and the expectations are high, right? When you have such an important role and you value that role, then you also have a lot of expectations that go along with that. So expectations are really high, but the expectations, specifically are, that there's great communication between the team and me, so I know what's going on, and I'm not blindsided or caught off guard. That team is communicating really well, so that if there are any challenges or issues, they're not finding out about it once it became a problem or an issue. They're finding out about it, before that even happens, and taking action to, to mitigate it, or to, fix it, or do whatever needs to be done. Winning in business is hard enough without having, unnecessary challenges or self-inflicted wounds, because you aren't handling things the right way.
Very good. Last question. What would be your suggestion for a new real estate agent? I know it's irrelevant to HR, but as successful and hardworking I know you are, what would be the top 2 or 3 advice, suggestion you give to anybody who wants to start real estate business?
It'd be to be really clear on what you want to achieve, like what your goals are and why they're important, and then have a plan to what you need to do to achieve those goals, and then create a schedule that if you follow that schedule, everything in your plan gets done, and if everything in your plan gets done, those goals will be achieved. Now, that sounds very simple and very basic, but doing that and sticking to it and doing it every day, even on the days you don't feel like doing it, or when you're having a bad day or a tough day, that's what separates the great ones from the ones that don't make it.
Very good. Chris, thank you very much for your time. It's always great talking to you. I'm personally inspired by your success. I know you for over, how long? 30 years? I know you.
I know we actually met in 1997.
97. So you make it 27 years ago. Wow, the life goes so fast.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time. I know you're a busy person, but I certainly appreciate your generosity to give us time to pick your brain.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed listening to Chris Heller, CEO of Ojo, as much as I did. Chris is a hard-working individual with a great track record of success in real estate and everything else that he gets engaged with. I would like to summarize the key takeaways of this interview for you, especially you as an HR manager, HR director, or HR professionals. There were a lot of good points that actually is very much useful to all of us, not just HR professionals, but as a leaders in industries. Any coach, any consultant, any manager, any director, any supervisors can use these valuable points. So I wrote some notes from the interview, and I will share it with you. The first thing that took my attention was perseverance. Chris talked about being good at something is good to start with, but it's not enough to save the day. A person also needs interest and persistence in what they do and have a plan. And that is where a HR professional, HR department can make a difference. How? By having a strategic planning for organization that support these young people, experienced people, people with the skills to have career planning and see themselves in the company as an organization who cares about their growth, personally and professionally. By providing training and development, you can see somebody is very interested and somebody is not. If you see a workforce, individuals, that they're interested to build a career, HR department, HR professionals can make a big difference. Another one, Chris talked about leadership philosophy. As you remember, he mentioned he don't have one single philosophy, but there are many of them that supported him and keep him centered and focused in his career. he talked about walking the talk. Basically, what I got out of it is have integrity, have responsibility, and being accountable for your actions and your plans. By definition, accountability is being responsible before the fact versus after the fact. So walking the talk as an HR professional, people watch you, your own staff, your colleagues, and the workforce around you watch you to, are you really walking the talk? Then he talked about always doing the right thing, regardless of circumstances, and do not negotiate to water down the right thing, which is bring us back to integrity, responsibility, and accountability. Literally being true to yourself and your principles and values, and don't bend them for anything or anyone. I know it's a hard thing to do, especially with inside office politics. But when you're practicing integrity and responsibility, you can keep your head up and walking the talk and always doing the right thing. Building a trust and rapport and interpersonal relationships. We cannot talk about this enough. Actually, recently, Dr. William Ruddle and I published a book in England called Building an Organizational Coaching Culture, which is available in Amazon and any other online platform you can purchase it for your training and development. Which is, we talk about a lot about building relationship, having rapport with people, and building trust. And the next thing was to be authentic, to be real, which is kind of bringing everything together under one umbrella of being truthful. Then leading activities, leadership activities, Chris talked about, operate based on foundational organizations such as organization vision, mission, and principal values. That foundation will give you support to be true and support workforce through HR department and HR practices within the company's vision and mission. He talked about promote the vision and mission as big enough so other employees can see themselves in that and recognize opportunities for their career development and career growth, which is build more of the, trust, rapport, and loyalty to the company. And, this is the old model that even Chris talked about, that leaders develop leaders. As an HR professional, we all have an opportunity to support others in the leadership development. Then we talk about role of HR in strategic decision-making. HR department, with the support of HRD team, Human Resource Development, can make a difference in decision-making about talent recruitment, talent management, and talent development, which is creating competitive edge for the company. That is very important. Some of HR professionals don't think they have something to say about creating competitive edge for organization. But whatever we do in the background on the foundation of company, by developing talent and managing talent, will support that creation of competitive edge. Creating a positive and workable workplace culture. That is what I'm talking about the content of that book, Building an Organizational Coaching Culture. Get your hand to a copy. You can use it. Creating a culture is everything, because everybody works in a certain culture, known or unknown to themselves, or even known or recognized or non-recognized from management or even HR professionals. Creating a positive and empowering and uplifting coaching culture for organization. Maintaining the organizational coaching culture. How? By implementing, for example, DEI&B policies and processes. by make sure everybody have equality, everybody have opportunity to be included, have an inclusive culture, respect diversity, provide training and development in diversity, and support the culture of organization. Then we talk about HR and company's success, relationship between HR and organization success. HR used to be, one of the points that Chris made, HR used to be a go-to office to resolve problems. But now, in this day and time, HR is now considered a strategic partner for organizations and make companies work. HR maintain organizational culture and keep it alive through practices and process of human resources development, and have an internal organization development agent, or bring external coaches and consultants in the domain of organization development and intervention and changes for teams, group, departments, or the organization as whole. The last point that Chris made was one of the last valuable points that we summarize here is working with mixed workforce. It's so easy to think as HR department professionals, we are just in charge of our workers, employees that work and they are on payroll in the organization. But company have many independent contractors, including the vendors, suppliers, repair people who come from outside, external people who come to help for projects and for certain elements of a project. So HR need to manage the interpersonal relationship with all them and treat them equally with same standard and ethics of human relations. If you look at the ethics and the standard of human relations, it's so clear. It's not just about working with the employees, but working with everybody else and create more interpersonal relationships. Thank you for your time. I hope to see you on our next month podcast, and get your hand in that book. Thank you. Good day.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE's Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.